Welcome, everybody, to the parent series called When Should I Give My Child a Cell Phone? I'm Jennifer Ehalt with Common Sense Media, and we're here to talk today about appropriate use strategies and when the right time is to think about giving a cell phone to your child. So today with me, we have partnered up with East Penn School District and Parkland Area School District to really cover some of the challenges and opportunities that we're facing with cell phone use, whether in home or at school. We're also going to talk to you a little bit about what things to consider when handing a child a cell phone. And third, we're going to talk about media balance and how to manage some of those conversations and expectations at home. So let's go ahead and meet our team for today. So let's start with East Penn School District. Kate, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name's Kate Curis, and I'm the principal at Emmaus High School in Emmaus, Pennsylvania.
Great. We're so happy to have you here today. Tara, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, I'm Tara Desiderio. I am the principal at West Coastville Elementary School, also in the East Penn School District.
Awesome. And we also have Parkland Area School District. Todd, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, my name's Todd Gumbos. I'm the principal at Orfield Middle School.
Awesome. And last but not least, Michelle?
Hi, Michelle Minotti. I'm the principal at Springhouse Middle School.
Great. We are so excited to have you all here today to share some of the experiences and best practices around this topic. So let's get started with the ultimate question. What are some of the challenges and opportunities that you're seeing with cell phones in your buildings? Let's go ahead and start with East Penn. Can you talk a little bit about some of the challenges that you're seeing? Let's start there.
At the elementary level, what I can say is that we are trying to do a lot of parent involvement nights with my guidance counselor and kind of talking a little bit about just what you had said before about when we should be getting social media into kids' hands on devices and kind of the perks to doing that and a lot of the downfalls to it. So we talk a lot about the safety precautions and what kind of things happen when not closely monitored at the elementary level.
Very good.
I would say at the high school level, having cell phones has been both a challenge and an opportunity. Our students carry around a highly powerful computer in their pockets every day. And that gives them opportunities to access resources in a way that they never could do that before. Of course, the challenges have a lot to do with social media, sort of constant interaction and contact between students, and the ways that they can get themselves in trouble if they're not careful about how they're using that tool.
So it sounds like there's a lot of education that goes into this before making that final decision as to whether or not you should give them this device. Good. How about Parkland? Let's hear from you. What are you seeing in your district?
I'll go first. I think at the middle school level, it's very similar to what you've heard from the other two individuals from East Penn. I think there's a certain component and element of parent oversight that needs to take place. The cell phone does give them great access to things, like we can use it in classrooms and learning in a meaningful way, doing things like Kahoot, doing Flipgrid. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. It has a whole lot of good that it brings forth, and if not properly monitored, it allows kids to get into some things that they probably shouldn't have seen.
Right. Michelle?
I agree with Todd. We work well as a team here. And, middle school is a really tumultuous time of change, physically, emotionally, socially, and once we're seeing that these kids at a younger age are coming in with cell phones, and parents are having all kinds of questions about when they should have them, how they should monitor them. And I know we had a parent university on with Common Sense Media with you, Jennifer, and I know even as a parent, I got a lot of information. And my daughter's 13, and I just started allowing her to have that and following all the rules and expectations. So we're seeing the same thing, and we're trying to work with the families and the students by educating them in school through our programs that we have here and our class chats, but also outside of school, and creating opportunities so that, even if they can't come to the parent university, that we get the videos out to them similar to what we're doing today.
Right. And so I heard a lot of things around balance as well. The double-edged sword comes up a lot. And so if we can find a way to balance this and make it more good than bad, we probably have, we're on to something. Yeah. Good. So one of the things I want to make sure our parents know are some of just the rules about using cell phones at school. We can start with the elementary age. What are some of the rules or expectations that you hope to see in your buildings based on your policies?
Certainly, and we don't generally have cell phones in the buildings unless students are using them because they're going home to an empty home and they need to call in. So they hold them in their backpacks often. However, when we're talking to parents about them using them outside of school, which we know many of our mostly 4th and 5th graders, many of them do have access to devices to use. And we talk to them about actually having conversations with their students about that not being their student's device, that is a device that the parent owns and they're lending it to them to use, and as long as they use it responsibly, then they can continue to use that device. And what does that mean? So always going back to that why are you allowed to use this? What kind of things should we be doing? And what does it mean to leave a digital footprint? So until they understand what happens and the why, that we really feel like that's our responsibility at the elementary level, is to kind of give them a good basis and foundation on what to build on, and understanding how their interactions may or may not go away. And just because they delete something doesn't mean that it's gone, which when many of our littles really believe that well, I deleted it, and so therefore it's gone. So just trying to help them understand that once we send something, we can't really take it back.
Right, and especially at the elementary level, I know parents really like to put this device in the hands of their child for safety purposes, if they need to get a hold of me or, whatever the case is. But let's keep in mind, I know Common Sense has a really great article on different types of cell phones that are out there for different purposes. Safety is one thing. So if you need just a straight telephone to call, they still exist. So just making the right choice in the type of device that you're giving to your child that's, 6th grade or under is another big decision, and a little bit more research too. So good.
Absolutely.
How about at the middle school level? What are some of the policies that you have in place?
The policy we have in place is that students aren't supposed to have their cell phones. What we've kind of allowed, if teachers are using them in class in an engaging way within a lesson or with something they're doing, we allow it, and kind of leave that up to each individual teacher. We also understand cell phones aren't going away. The vast majority of middle school kids have them. We try not to make it a big deal. We don't want kids to have them out and using them. Going home on the bus, it's a good way for them to listen to music. It's probably something more productive than what they would be doing on a bus. So there are, again, good things to them. We found that device, phone book, have been able to give students who might be a little bit more introverted in a class the ability to get their ideas and present themselves out there. So it gives all students a voice, which is kind of the most productive thing out of technology and cell phone use, in my opinion. And it allows students who, again, might be more reserved or introverted to have their voice heard and get some ideas out there in a normal classroom setting.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. Student voice is really important, it is access and equity is certainly a big part of that. So that's a really good point to bring up. Good. How about at the high school level?
So I can't speak for every high school, but I will say I've been an administrator in high school at the high school level since 2006. And at that time, the consequences for having a cell phone were, it was confiscated and your parent had to come and pick it up. And things have evolved over time, I think, as the technology has changed and as student use of that technology has had more educational applications. Right now, our policies really focus around making sure that we're being respectful about each other's privacy. So there are certain areas in the building where cell phone use is always off limits: locker rooms, bathrooms, the nurse's office, an office in general. And we expect that during the school day, students aren't really using their cell phones to make calls, although I don't think high school kids really make too many calls anymore anyway. They're texters. We allow cell phone use for students to listen to music or send messages or use social media during lunch, during study halls. And then as far as in the classroom, we leave that to the discretion of the teacher. So it's not unusual for me to go into an art classroom, for example, and see students creating art and listening to music on their earbuds. It's also been really useful because we still aren't fully one-to-one with computing devices in the classroom. And so knowing that many students have smartphones has allowed us to do some of the things that Todd talked about in terms of quick assessment, on-the-spot research, other types of things that students could use their cell phone for that had an educational application in the classroom. Now, as we go more one-to-one and we have other devices that are issued to students specifically for learning, we're again sort of reevaluating what the value of a cell phone in a classroom actually is.
Good. So it really sounds like there's a time and a place for these devices, whether in school or out of school time. And I think as we continue to, build out lesson plans, meeting standards, and just understanding the balance and students understanding media use is all part of that conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good. So Common Sense offers a lot of advice around, things to consider before getting your kid a cell phone. And so I just kind of wanted to highlight some of those things for you to consider or think about as you, go down this road with your child or your family. So the first thing is think about, does your kids show a sense of responsibility, such as letting you know when they leave the house? Do they show up when they say they will? Are they on time? So responsibility and maturity levels are definitely a key consideration. Next, you need to think about, do your kids tend to lose things, backpacks, homeworks, folders, right? And so when you think about that, you want to make sure, are you ready to put an expensive device in their pocket? And so that's another key place to think about. And then, third, do your kids need to be in touch for safety reasons? And then the next one is, would having easy access to friends benefit them for social reasons? I think this is a big question that could go either way. And so I think for this one too, what I always tell parents is think about that gradual release of responsibility. And so I know that many parents can get caught between that age range where everybody has it but me. And so that whole idea of the fear of missing out, or otherwise known as FOMO, comes into play. So I usually tell parents, maybe if you feel comfortable putting some of those social apps on their phone and learning with their child, expectations, responsibility, ethics, how to communicate properly, and eventually maybe building them out to where you feel comfortable and trust them on a device that you choose to get. And then, obviously the last one is, adhering to the limits that you set for talking and apps and socializing. That's really important so that they understand a balance throughout their day and what's appropriate and not appropriate screen time use. And other things that I don't necessarily have on the slide, and if you're listening, some of the other things you think about, are your kids getting enough sleep? Are they participating in school activities, sports, hobbies, making sure they get enough balance of those things, hanging out with their friends face-to-face, right? And doing different events that way. Those are also things to consider when you're going down this path of the decision-making. Does anybody have any other things they'd like to add or that you've seen in terms of a big question to ask yourself?
And the only thing I was thinking is I've heard so many amazing positives about social media, which there are so many. In our role, unfortunately, we see a lot of the negative things that come through. And I would just, welcome parents to learn all the different applications that are out there with their phones, the different apps. I know we have programs. I know East Penn has programs to educate parents on that. But if they have any questions, call. Because a lot of times the social media concerns are happening outside of school, and we work with the students and we guide them. But just to be aware of what's happening outside, because that's what we're often seeing inside.
Very good point. Yes. And, both districts, they partner with Common Sense Media. So I know that we've been working really hard to distribute different advice articles, our ratings and reviews, so you can learn more about the apps, and different webinar series and parent talks. So, we offer tons of stuff, and I know that both districts have done a great job for pushing that out. So never be afraid or hesitate to visit the district website to access Common Sense Media, or you can go to commonsensemedia.org for some of that information as well. And then, go ahead.
From our point of view, is just if you are going to put that device in your child's hand, just be ready to commit to the time that's going to take to monitor that as well. So it's kind of a time commitment on your part as well as a parent, that you're going to need to not give it to the child and not be able to check in on those things. It is kind of a 50-50 responsibility in that we want to be checking on our kids and their usage and what they're doing all the time. So there is a little bit of responsibility on our end as well as parents and as educators.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so
the point of the educational piece, and I just had a faculty meeting about it last week. Students are always going to be a little bit ahead of us in regard to using devices or what functions they have. So I said to staff, you have to just work a little harder to kind of monitor what students are doing to make sure that they're not doing things they shouldn't be here with the device, by making them engaged and doing things in class that keeps their attention doing what they should be doing.
Absolutely. And I think too, from the administrator and the educator perspective, modeling in school, and then as a parent yourself, you need to really be considerate of what you're doing with your phone. telling your kid to get off their phone when yours is in your hand is probably not a good idea. So we are the models as adults when we're around our students and our children, and showing them the proper ways to use them, the time and place to use them is huge. They are watching every move we make, whether they're little, middle school, or big. That's important. And then monitoring, it's not really about lectures, right? I think it's just about asking questions and being involved in their life in that perspective. We're always asking, like, where's your math homework? And, what time's your game tonight? What time's practice? Like, all of those questions we're already asking. So just include some around social media. Which app did you use today? Which app, who are you talking to on that app? Who are you playing with when you're playing that game? So I just think if you weave those questions into your daily conversations with your kids, you'll be closer than you think to them in terms of what they're doing and what they're participating in.
In 20 some years of administration, and having been a high school principal, the greatest change I've seen is I've always kind of stuck to a simplistic thing when I've met with middle school students over discipline, saying you really only need two things at your age to be successful: the fear of losing something and the fear of disappointing someone. You hope that the fear of disappointing their parents is a big thing. When I was a child, the disappointing thing, or the thing I didn't want to lose, was the opportunity to play sports. Today, the vast majority of kids will tell you, I don't want to lose my cell phone.
Right.
So something
right.
parents can kind of use to kind of keep them from doing inappropriate things, or you're going to take away the cell phone for a week or 2 weeks or a month, and then they'll have to earn that back.
Right.
I don't know that that's necessarily a good thing for us, but it's at least something to try to hold kids to being a little bit more responsible with how they use it.
Right. Right. Anybody else?
No, I was going to say, Todd and I have talked about that concept before, and I completely agree. And I have had parents that have come back and have thanked us because of that, because they didn't even think about taking that cell phone away and the relationship building and the other things that they're doing. Their kids are outside more, and they're doing things that they should be doing as kids. So I think that's really valuable advice, and I'm glad it was said.
Good. Thank you. And then just last but not least, as we talk about expectations, we have something, Common Sense offers a family media agreement, which is a really great document to house a lot of the questions and conversation that we discussed today. Thinking about, taking care of the advice, right? Or taking care of the device in terms of, responsibility, staying safe, privacy, account creation, passwords, sharing pictures, all of that is included in this. And then, obviously thinking first, understanding the role of yourself online and what that means when you post pictures and say things about, topics or people. And then also just kind of how the rules look at home. So when you go through this, you can sign off it as a parent, and then the child signs off on it. And then it's something that you can go back to and work towards in terms of building out that media balance at home. And then another great resource, last but not least, is we have a parent newsletter that offers topics, advice, conversation around all of these things about, understanding when to get your child a cell phone and what does that look like. So if you just go to commonsensemedia.org/newsletters, that will give you the prompt to sign up and receive that in your inbox. I can't thank our team enough today for joining us. Are there any last minute advice or thoughts around this topic from anyone?
I don't think so. I would just say that just open up a dialogue right from the beginning with your child about expectations and continue that conversation, because I do think as students get older, their use of devices becomes more sophisticated, and also the challenges that they're navigating with each other and with the world become more complicated as well. So I think we always have those conversations with our kids about all kinds of things as they get older, and just try to incorporate that conversation about media into that ongoing parenting talk.
And
Good.
I would agree, and just add, it's not going away. There's only going to be more technology invented. It's going to become much more enhanced in what it can do. So we need to teach kids to be responsible with how they use it.
Absolutely.
Right. It's all about the conversation that we have with our kids and kind of building that bridge and making it a safe environment for them to come to us, because as we know, they may have to come to us with some very uncomfortable situations, and we want them to be able to navigate that with us. So again, always having that open dialogue and encouraging that is so important at any age.
Yeah, I love that. And Tara, I like how you just talked about that bridge, because I think that's what it comes down to. I feel like we're all coming together on this bridge, the parent piece, the educators, and even with Common Sense Media, we all have to meet in the middle to try to help these kids navigate through this world that we were not familiar with when we were young. So I think we're doing the best we can. I love the contract piece as well. I wanted to say as a parent, we use the contract. So thank you to Common Sense Media.
Good. Thank you all very much. And again, we're here to help. We're in this together. And check out our other series, Media Balance in the Home and our 2019 Summer Guide. Both will offer really good advice too as we get ready for summertime. So thanks a bunch.
Thank you.
Thank you.